Hey, good evening, everyone. Welcome to an impromptu edition of A Quantum View. Now, if anybody has not been living under a rock, we all know that there's been some very inclement weather happening in Florida. So subsequently, Pyramid One Network is off the air until they can get power back on and internet. So tonight, what we're doing is, by the graces of Zach Alou and Denise Garou, they are letting us use their platform on Zoom to record this show and to allow us to use video for the first time for A Quantum View. So yes, this is what I look like. Yeah, perfect face for radio, right? So tonight on the show, what would our guest? We have a guest, Jason Quitt is here, along with my good friend Holly, Denise Garou, and Zach. We're all going to sit here and we're going to talk about a phenomenon called ECETI. Now, I'm not too knowledgeable about this subject, so what I'm going to do is ask Holly. Can you, for people who don't know what this is, can you please explain what ECETI is?
Absolutely. So ECETI is a ranch just over Hood River in Washington by Trout Lake. It's about 13 miles from Mount Adams, which is a huge, beautiful glacier mountain. And ECETI is known for its paranormal activity. There's been tons of paranormal activity on the mountain. We've seen we'll get into all the lights that we've seen, but there's also a lot of paranormal activity on the ranch as well. There's been several sightings of Bigfoot. There's 3 different Bigfoots that live on ECETI, and then there's been a tremendous amount of fairy activity. So the fairies will steal things and they'll bring it back to you, and it's just a really special place. And one of the things that I like most about it is it's a divine province. So it's actually its own separate property. And as Jason so pleasantly reminded me, the land is so sacred that when you're on that land, it brings up all your personal stuff, which is what I went through on the 4th of July. So it does, it brings all your emotions to the surface. They've got this amazing medicine wheel. They've got this Pleiadian circle. It's quite unique to anywhere I've ever been.
Awesome. Now this is something that I'm planning on visiting next year. I just explained to Holly that I can't go to Bosnia to see the pyramids, so I'm going to go to ECETI, next best thing. Now, you talked about things disappearing. Now, one show I was talking about one of my pyramids that disappeared when I was camping. And
right.
Look what I found. I asked the fairies within my camp area to return it, and sure enough, they did. It was sitting under a fern where my wife and I walked by 50,000 times a day. And there it was. I come back from the office. My wife was at the camper with the kids, and she says, "Look what I found." And there it was. So you ask them to bring it back, and they did. They're very polite, but they're naughty, very naughty, if you know what I mean.
Yes, they are.
Now, before we get going, of course, the hot topic right now is the weather and all of its turmoil that it's bringing up. And a lot of people are talking in the conspiracy realm about government-created weather, all the black ops, military with HARP and all these different things creating the weather. Now, what I've been following on YouTube, there's a channel called Suspicious Observers. Mm-hmm. The guy's name is Ben Davidson. And what he does is he tracks all of the solar activity and correlates it with the weather phenomenon going on the planet. And if you go to his channel lately, there has been some solar storms happening that are off the charts compared to what normal CMEs are, coronal mass ejections and that type of thing. So that in itself. Now, let's back up a little bit. There's a lot of people that talk about the sun is not really our sun. It's a fake sun, because our sun has been drained of all its energy. Lots of spaceships go there and they siphon off energy. So that this is a fake sun we're seeing, and that the real sun is now regenerating and is soon going to show itself. It's going to transition back to the real sense. So my thoughts are, instead of, you know, the military creating the weather phenomenon, there's something creating the solar flare activity that's creating the weather phenomenon. So you got to go back one. So that's kind of where I'm sitting with it. A lot of people ask me, you know, is it the military causing this? Is it, you know, because of something going on, a big distraction of something going on in the governments? And, well, everything's going on in the government. They don't need distractions. They're distracting themselves, basically. But I think that's more of what it is. It's a solar phenomenon created by something else. And there's a lot of talk about Nibiru coming through. There's all kinds of things happening with that. So that's kind of where I sit with it. So if you think it's military creating the weather, think back one more position and go to the solar activity. That's what I'm looking at. Let's bring on our guest, Jason Quick. Where are you, Jason?
I'm here. How are you doing, Chris?
I'm doing absolutely perfect. Today has been one of those crazy days of energy. I don't know if you know quite what I do behind this desk 8 hours a day, and that is doing energy healing and work in the spiritual realms and outer dimensions. And every day now is something new, something exciting, some new finding that we open up so that we can get into people's energy and clear it out and help them with their health problems. Now, ECETI, why don't you enlighten the world about exactly what you know about ECETI?
Well, I actually met James Gilliland, who is the owner of the ranch. I met him at Contact in the Desert in May of this year. And our booths were actually right next to each other. So we started to chat, and it was almost like, you know, you're finding someone from your soul family, your star family. We speak the exact same language. And shortly after, I get a phone call from him inviting me to be one of his speakers at the ECETI conference July 4th. And I really didn't know too much about ECETI, so I went there with a completely open mind, open slate, no preconceived notions of what I'm going to experience and what I'm going to see. So I pretty much went there just as an experiencer, and I have experiences there with fairies, of beings I couldn't see, Bigfoot, and every single night we experienced different type of light phenomenon, which I'm sure we'll get into. But it's just a magical place, and it's kind of confusing because why that place? What makes this place so special that you can go there and have these experiences and experience these phenomenon? Where if you go to another mountain, you don't really see those things that you see there. So what makes this place so special?
So, and Holly, so this place, obviously the first thing that I would think of got to be some kind of vortex. I know that in Nottingham, England, there is a huge healing vortex there. Whenever I work on somebody in Nottingham, England, it's almost instantaneous miracle type results. So vortexes are definitely a consideration. Holly, when you're up there, what do you feel is going on?
You know, I feel like it's a portal. I feel like it's a huge interdimensional portal, and I believe that's why there are so many sightings of the fairies and the Bigfoot. But we took it a step further. My husband and Brad Olson, who's the writer of esoterics, modern esoterics, the three of us actually hiked up the mountain to get a better look at, quote, Jimmy's door, which looked like a huge portal that had opened when Jason and I were up there for the conference. So a few weeks later, about a month later, we actually hiked up to get a closer look at this door, which appeared to be closed. But the interesting thing is that while we were up there, we went to base camp, and I didn't make it as far because I had my son, but my husband and Brad went up there and asked the campers, who had no idea why we were up there on the climb or anything, just what do you see? And it was interesting because a lot of the people at base camp said we see blue lights, we see white lights, and there's all sorts of light activity on the mountain, and we don't know what it is. So it is clearly an anomaly.
So people camp there, or there's actual campgrounds?
No, you can drive 5,000 feet up, but then it's a serious climb from there. So it's like climbers who will set up their camp and then they'll summit. You have to have the crampons for climbing up the ice and ice picks and stuff like that. Okay. So it's not somewhere you take your family and roast hot dogs.
Okay. You definitely want to bring a 40-pounder or something with you. Now, so people who aren't into the phenomenon, when they see these lights, do they say, "Oh, look at the pretty lights"? Or is it something they go, "Hey, something's going on here"? Do they kind of wake up and know that something is happening?
From the people I've experienced just running into in town and up on the mountain, yeah, they're pretty curious about it. Not totally open-minded, but they're definitely like, you know, something's up, something's strange, and you can feel it on the mountain.
Do they get the willies, like the crawlies, the tinglings, that whoa, something's coming to get me?
Yeah, I ran into some other people in the cafe, and they were like, I forgot I had on the ECETI shirt, and on the back of the shirt it says, "We're here, get over it." And these two guys were like, these two older men were like, we saw it on the mountain. I'm like, what are you talking about? And then I was like, oh, my shirt. So they were very taken back, and they saw my shirt, and they had to tell me that yes, they had seen the light.
Jason, how many times have you been up to ECETI?
Just once, but you know, we should add context to the story that Holly is telling us. Is that when we all went up there, every night when that sun goes down, that mountain, which is called Mount Adams, it lights up like a Christmas tree, and everybody there witnesses it. And these lights are so bright that the mountain is about 14 miles away from ECETI. It's a beautiful landscape view of the mountain. But these lights almost turn on and turn off on the mountain right when the sun goes down. And these lights are so bright and so big that the only way I could compare them is a flare, like a road flare. That's how bright these lights are. And it would be the size of a school bus. So that's how big that light would be. And they would pop in and out all over the mountain. Mm-hmm. And this happens, we witnessed it every single night we were there. And what happened is when we were there, we're observing this mountain. We've never been there before. We're observing this mountain, and we're just in awe of these lights turning on and off on the mountain. James talks about how these are interdimensional doorways. Right now, we're just observing that it's just lights on the mountain. And the next morning, we wake up and we start looking at the mountain with binoculars. And somebody sees that the mountain has changed. So overnight, the mountaintop changed from being a snowy top. So there was snow on the top. And then in the morning, it looked like the snow had fallen away and there was this massive doorway. It's the only way that we could describe it from what we observed with our physical eyes. And it was not there the day before, and even James, who's lived there for, I think almost 20 years, has never seen that either. So for him, it was a new thing to see on the mountain. So we're all sitting out there, we're all taking the binoculars, looking, and I also had a very powerful camera with me with a zoom lens, and I zoomed in and took a bunch of pictures, and I took them at different times during the day, so in the morning and then as the sun's going down. And this, it looked like a hangar, like a big rectangular hangar had opened up, and that's all we could observe with the camera and with our eyes. So we're just kind of speculating what happened. what is going on with this mountain? There's definitely lights every single night from this mountain, and there's they are UFOs because we don't know what they are. They're not satellites that fly over your head. And one night, I think there was about 30 or 40 that we counted that just came over the field that we can see. So there's a phenomenon there. Lights on the mountain, UFOs in the sky, and even it was almost like the lights on the mountain were intelligent, where they would actually start to move and zigzag or move in and out and away from the mountain. And hundreds of people are observing this at the same time. You have Jimmy Church, in the back with his binoculars, making commentary on everything that we're seeing as well, which is quite the experience. And so we're just kind of stunned because, what I think of right away, and I'm trying to use my rational mind to explain all of this, is that it's some type of ball lightning or plasma effect from when the sun goes down and you have the atmosphere condense, you release a lot of plasma, and maybe there's some minerals in that mountain. It's a volcanic mountain that's grounding this plasma in there that we're experiencing it. So that's my rational mind trying to explain away what I'm seeing. But then that light on the mountain takes off into the sky. So then you're like, what is going on?
Throw rationality out the window, buddy, because lights can't fly like that. Now, there's got to be people in the area of normalcy, not conspiracy theorists like us and irrational people.
Yeah.
There's got to be people who are like, what is there people in the area? Is there a town? Is there something where people are like, something goes on that mountain all the time, and we just kind of stay away from it. Keep Billy away from that mountain. Is there anybody that just questions it all the time? Is it hot topic during coffee in town?
I actually have heard that it's quite a religious area, and there's many churches around there. And from what I've heard is that they really don't speak about it, even when the UFOs are hovering over their church for the entire night. They just kind of look down and keep walking.
What town did you say it is?
Oh, Holly, you would answer this better.
Trout Lake. It's right near Trout Lake. Yes.
That's
and
Washington?
There's a few little towns put together, but Jason's absolutely right that it's very religious and they keep their heads down. They do not talk about it.
And that's Trout Lake, Washington?
Yes.
Or Oregon, Washington?
Washington, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think we should all get on a bus and go there next year.
Group discount.
Yeah, I got a question.
Go, Denise.
I was listening to one of James's talks, and he was talking about one of the latest sightings, and it was something like a creature with wings, and it had a ball at the end of its tail, and they thought maybe it was a dragon at first, and it came out of the doorway at the top of the mountain. And for me, I would think right away Phoenix, because people who follow me and read my books, they know that I associate Phoenix with, Lemuria and Agartha. So I would think right away of a Phoenix type thing. Did you see anything like that, or did you hear about that sighting?
I have not heard about that one. If it's recent, I'd like to go back and find that. But it's interesting because I've recently moved from California to Oregon. I'm 2 hours from ECETI, so I've been up there a total of 4 times this summer, and every time I'm up there, the lights are exactly how Jason described them. Every single time. It wasn't just over the 4th of July weekend. It's multiple times. And it's just absolutely fascinating. Now, the last time I was up there, Clyde Lewis, who does Ground Zero Radio out of Portland, he was up there. And his friend had this, I don't. They said it wasn't a spirit box, but it's the closest thing I can associate it to. They had this black box that was bringing in these different entity voices. So we, as an audience, were able to ask questions, and we did get out. My son asked the questions. What are the lights underneath the ice? Because there's the lights that come off the mountain, there's lights that flash, and then there's lights that appear to be underneath, going up and down. And the box said back that it was Syrian, that there were doorways being opened, and it was Syrian and Pleiadian activity, which I found really interesting.
Now, has there been anybody who sent any kind of technology up there? Anything to view, anything to take back a sample, urine sample, anything at all?
Actually, when I was up there last, apparently some people had hired GoPro to fly up there, and GoPro did its thing, and then the person who hired GoPro did not hear back from them for months. And apparently, I don't want to say it's GoPro, but they were definitely affiliated, and they were a little bit more religious in their background. And what they saw, they came back and they apologized about. They said, we thought you were crazy, but they saw tons of the lights coming in and out of the mountain. And there's also been reports of people seeing robotic type things coming out of caves, like robotic type things, and just really bizarre futuristic things. Apparently there was a climber who was able to climb up into this cave area at one point, and he was terrified by what he saw. So just because you're terrified doesn't mean it's necessarily bad. It's just something that you can't quite
something you've
wrap
never
your
seen
head
before.
around.
You can't wrap your head around. Exactly.
Right.
Wow, this is right up there with stuff. To me, this isn't just a chance happening. This is something that goes on all the time. It's almost like a tourist attraction. Yeah. Right. Have you heard any stories at all from let's say police or military that, oh, it's just a bunch of kids playing hockey or lighting off flares, or what is there anybody else who like tries to really bring this down to a stupidity level?
The only reports I've heard about that is the church organization in that town trying to actually shut down ECETI. That's the only thing I've heard, but I haven't heard any military or police reports.
Is there any military activity, like the helicopters or any kind of guards? I mean, this almost sounds like a scenario around Area 51 where they don't want anybody around to see it. So you go to Area 51, you may not see anything, but if you go to ECETI, you're going to see the whole dog and pony show for your quarter. This sounds to me like something that should be fenced off.
It's funny that you say that. It is not, and I think the people that are attracted to ECETI already have an open mind, and the other people just kind of naysay it. I've heard a lot of pushback towards James Gilliland and the ranch, but you're going to find that everywhere. And me personally, to have seen that so many times, and when I was up there, when Jason was up there, his wife and I went out into the Pleiadian circle and meditated, and we were rushed with fairies. Like the fairies came, you could feel it was like effervescence all over your face and just tingling. The sensations up there are more than just your imagination. It is very, very real, especially when the fairies come and you're missing something and you ask for it back and it comes back and your emotions are coming up. And then Jimmy Church's wife had actually taken, and I think this is what sparked everything, on the 4th of July weekend, she had actually taken a photo in the medicine wheel. And in one of the sections of the medicine wheel, she got like a split dimension.
Okay.
There was a total fragmentation in the photo frame. And of course it could have been an anomaly, but it was right after they had done singing bowls. Somebody had had an out-of-body experience, and when he came back to, he didn't recognize anybody.
Okay, so I've got images of Mount Adams lights on my computer right now, so I'm going to douse, see what we come up with.
I know what that means.
Let's see what we come up with. Jason, anything you want to add?
Yeah, basically with the fairies, even myself, they took something from me. They took my wife's cell phone, and it's almost like they wanted acknowledgement that you know they're there and they're with you. That's how I felt. It's almost like they just want you to be there and to appreciate that they're there with you. And if you don't, they're going to let you know that they're there with you. So, for example, my wife lost her cell phone. She said it fell into the couch cushions. We ripped that couch apart. We threw everything on the floor. We looked under it. We looked everywhere. And 30 minutes later, we went back to the same couch and we said, okay, give it back. And we took it off again, and it was right there under the cushions.
Yeah, just like my pyramid. Boom, there it is, under a fern. I dowsed the weekend before. Where is it? It's under a fern. Well, I got millions of ferns in the back of my campground. It was under a fern. And right there where I actually put it down. Now, I just did some dowsing, and what I came up with is that the mountain is a hologram.
Oh.
Okay, we have something to add to that.
I smell the smoke going here. Okay, what is it, Holly?
Okay, so when we originally saw the door open on the mountain, the hangar door, and I apologize because earlier I wasn't clear on that. So we saw the door open on the 4th. Then about 4 weeks later is when we actually went to investigate it. We wanted a closer look. And that's when the door was closed. Whether the door was open or whether the door was closed, we still had the same amount of activity. Like there was no change in the activity. There was no change in the blinking lights, the orbs on the ranch, on the mountain. It was the same consistency. So we begin to think, is it a hologram? Is it a holographic door?
So we're getting some confirmation. We've got the same mindset. Denise, you got something on your mind. I can see it.
Well, you got me at fairies right away because that's what I write about. So I got fairies just flitting around here, but then it just brought me to J.K. Rowling's, magical beasts and where you find them. And it's like you guys found the portal or the gateway for the magical beasts, the fairies. It's like, why are the fairies just, there, and it makes sense if that's a hologram.
Absolutely.
Right? It makes
now, if you look on YouTube about holograms, there's some really interesting, believable holograms that the governments are creating, the military is creating. There's no denying that it looks like something real right in front of you. The whale jumping out of the water in the gymnasium. Mm-hmm. So what they can do with holograms in this little monkey world compared to what they can do in other dimensions. A hologram from their point of view could be something solid and real. The sun, that is a hologram.
Right.
And, the veils I felt were very, very thin there. And I think it is because of all the vortex energies. And even when you just take a regular camera phone at nighttime and you take pictures out on that field, you will see spiraling lines come out on your photos. Many people even capture the fairies on their photographs. And, being a photographer myself, when I went out into that field and I was just snapping things, I caught UFOs that you can't see with your eye. So for some reason, and that's in broad daylight, for some reason, the veils are very thin there, and there is an interaction between you and the natural order there, or the natural spirit world there. We've had Bigfoot encounters, and we were only there for about a week, and I had a Bigfoot encounter. My wife had a Bigfoot encounter. It's almost like that place is very, very sacred and very ancient. It's almost like a pyramid that has not been shut off. It's still active. That area is very active with the energy fields and the vortexes. And it starts to recalibrate your energy fields so that when you enter these sacred lands, not only is it helping you to purge what you're carrying from the outside world, which can manifest in different things, but then it starts to align you to these energies. So the longer you stay on this property, the more of these experiences you'll have.
Oh, back up a minute. Hold on. Bigfoot? Everybody's like, wait. He just talked about Bigfoot. Everybody wants to hear it. There's so much out there right now about people tracking Bigfoot, and more pictures coming forward. What kind of run-in did you have with a Bigfoot?
Okay, so we were staying in one of the cabins, and this cabin was where Clyde Lewis also saw the Bigfoot through the window. And so in my cabin, it was very hot at night, so we would have the windows opened all night long. And these are wooden framed windows, so for me to close them, I had to put my whole weight on them to close this window down. It was a very hard window. So in the middle of the night, I'm sleeping. It was around 2 a.m. This window just comes crashing down and wakes me up. And I was very tired. I just thought to myself, oh, my wife closed the window. So I just turned over and went back to sleep. The next morning, we're sitting around the fire, and this gentleman by the name of Lorcan O'Toole, he was out that night, and he started to tell us that he saw a Bigfoot. And we're saying, okay, well, tell us the story. And he says, well, it was around 2 a.m, and it was right by that cabin between that window and that dumpster over there. And I said, what? And I turned to my wife and I said, did you close the window last night? She's like, no. I'm like, oh my God.
You know what? If it looks like a duck and walks like a duck, and when you step on it, it sounds like a duck, there's a good chance. Everybody now?
It is.
A duck. Okay. Now, something's coming to mind here. As everybody knows, I'm a YouTube freak. I try and find videos that I can get, cherry pick some information or spark an idea or get something rolling. Now, I did watch a video. Is from Yellow Rose of Texas. I don't know if anybody's ever seen her videos. Very, very out there. And there's one video that she put out where it was a German fellow explaining how all the large buttes in the world are actually tree stumps. Mm-hmm. Okay. And, he shows you images of a tree that we see now that's been cut down compared to one that's like a mile wide. They look very similar. And he also showed trees that were broken. And he would compare them to, let's say, a mountain. So now what's not to say that this particular mountain is a specific fossilized tree stump that has a portal still active in it, because these trees, they say, went like 36 miles high. Okay, so what does that resonate, Holly, when we look at this mountain? I'm looking at a picture of it right now, that this is an ancient fossilized petrified tree stump that has the portal still within it.
I know the video that you're talking about, and a really good example is that Devil's Post pile in Arizona or Colorado. And I've been driving along down by Klamath Lake in Southern Oregon, and I've looked across going, wow, that looks like it could have been a tree. My my mother has a mountain that looks like that. But with Mount Adams, I'm not sure. It's, even though the trees were 36 feet tall, it's just, I guess after being on the mountain, it's hard for me to imagine that scale of a tree.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if it was a petrified tree. I do know the concept very well, but it's no doubt about it, it's a portal. No doubt about it. And my son has had Bigfoot experiences up there as well.
Okay, so for my little monkey mind, I work every day closing portals for people. Everybody's like, I got a haunted house here, and you find a portal into lower dimensions, whatsoever. You close these portals, and things start to even out within the house. So tell me it's a portal. Of course, but what it's more so. Hold on. Talk amongst yourselves a second. I'm going to douse for a second. Where does this portal in Mount Adams go to?
I believe it goes to inner Earth.
Goes to...
Hey, anybody know anything about the Fairies race? It's supposed to be an ancient human race. I think they're the ones that are coming back.
Is that like the Kumaris?
It's if you've heard anything about Scott Lemriel, Scott Lemriel, he talks about the Fairies race, and they're yeah, SERES, Fairies.
And
they're supposed to be, now when I hear everybody talk about the aliens, ETs, when they see them on this mountain that you guys are talking about, is the ECETI. They say that the ETs that they see are just these very tall, beautiful, human type beings. And Scott Lemriel describes the Fairies the same way. And he says that they're actually coming back here, and they're the ones that are going to take away this experiment of evil, and kind of like what we're going through right now. We're all starting to wake up and finding out about the untruths of the world. So I was just wondering if anybody heard about the Fairies.
Well, they better get here quick before somebody offs Trump.
It might be in this book that I haven't read yet, and excuse me for getting up, but it may be in this book. This book it's a reprint, obviously. It was written in the 1800s, and I haven't gotten to it yet, but I know it talks about the ancient races quite a bit. Have you heard anything about that, Jason, from anyone up at ECETI?
No, but from my own personal experience, the first thing that I thought of was, in many ancient books, they always talk about these fires on the mountain. And they would go to these fires and would communicate with the gods. So when I saw that on the mountain, I said, that's what it looks like. There's a fire on the mountain. And if we go there, maybe we'll have some communication, maybe we'll have some connection, or it is a gateway to other worlds where we could travel, leave our bodies and go, or receive divine communication, which could help out who we are. These beings that are coming here, I wouldn't say that they're physical in nature. I think that they could manifest themselves and show themselves in physical form, but I think it would be more of a dimensional being that could access these portals and travel. And I think that's what they're trying to teach us, is that we could leave our bodies and access these multidimensional worlds with them.
So on that note, what I dowsed is that it said the system of portals lead to the seventh dimension. And that's where I'm finding now is that we're connecting to the whole ascension process. The higher consciousness is connecting to the seventh dimension. So that, to me, is a good answer. Holly, how does that feel to you?
Oh, absolutely. I definitely believe that they're interdimensional beings. They can manifest in the physical.
Yeah, they have to be. Otherwise, why would they be here, right?
Right.
Exactly.
But I believe that maybe ECETI was either drawn to that location because it's drawing people of such like minds to experience that energy and then take it to others, or at least just get those download activations.
Okay, well, here we go, throwing scenarios around as to why this mountain. Okay, so I think the question is, why not this mountain? Why not my backyard? Why not, whatever? But obviously, if you think back millions of years, I mean, there's been civilizations on this planet way before us. I think we're the 6th or 7th seeding of civilization on this planet. Look at Machu Picchu, look at all these different buildings that are ancient. So possibly, I mean, the Earth is a big hub. It's a big portal hub that goes everywhere. Okay, and I think there's one extra portal that is not supposed to be here that goes off into some way out place. I don't know where, past Transcone or Winnipeg. I don't know. But there's some big portal that is there that's not supposed to be. That's a very big highway. So the Earth being this hub, there has to be a lot of different portals, a lot of different stargates, a lot of different avenues for beings to come in and out. So this is probably just a stop along the way.
Hey, Chris, you mentioned why here, why Adams? Is Adams in close proximity to Shasta or Rainier? Anybody know?
It's closer to Rainier and closest to St. Helens, and it's also near Mount Hood. Shasta's in California, so it's pretty far away, but it is on a definite mountain range, and of course we all know Mount St. Helens erupted back in the 80s, so there's definitely energetic activity. It is, Rainier is another hot spot for activity. So
yeah, it seemed to correlate kind of with the Hollow Earth and Telos and Shasta and all that. It's just kind of like there was something there.
Well, and ironically, I live about 90 minutes from Mount Hood, which is a hot spot, and I just came across this book written about someone in my city, someone in my town, about all the paranormal sightings and all the just anomalies about just Mount Hood. So I think all of these mountains are portals. All of the major mountains are portals. But I did a retreat in July at Mount Shasta, and the other teacher and I took a trip out that night to go to the grocery store, and she saw, I didn't see it, she saw a light under the glacier of Mount Shasta move up, which is what I've witnessed at ECETI. It's under the glacier, and these lights they'll move up really fast. And so I tried to be like, well, are they snowmobiling at night? What's out there? But there's no way. You can't get a snowmobile out there. You'd have to helicopter it in. And you wouldn't even be able to see a light from a snowmobile that far away. I mean, it just, so interesting.
Okay, so there is, a mountain range in the area. You've got Rainier, you've got Shasta, you've got Adams. What other ones is there?
Mount Hood and St. Helens.
Okay, give me a second. I'm going to douse it out. Okay, what is the significance of these mountains? Okay,
Beautiful.
Significance is, Rainier is reptilian portal. Hood is Venusian portal. So these different mountains go to different places.
Okay. Interesting.
Very interesting.
You said Hood was Venusian?
Venusian, yeah.
Very cool. We need to get Onic.
I want to
right?
Chime in on this deal.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time up at Mount Hood in the wintertime.
So now this said that Mount Rainier is reptilian, When you think of Mount Rainier now, does that vibrate?
You know, I'm not very familiar with Rainier. I've been up there recently. I was with my mom and my son, so it wasn't like I was able to be really still. We didn't go very high up on the mountain, but looking, I could definitely see some more valleys in that mountain and peaks that looked almost terraformed. It had a whole different landscape than where I was. So why not? I mean, I actually thought, I'm like, okay, there's trees and there's flowers and meadows here. But when I look across, it looks completely terraformed. There's no life. It's totally barren. It's looking at another world.
Now, this morning, I worked with Susie. If you don't know who Susie is, she's somebody in the UK, in Germany, that we do a session once a week, and we connect so closely that she brings in a lot of energy and messages for me, a lot of information. And one of the big messages we got this morning was that the military has found these underground cities, and they were reptilian cities, and they're vacant, but there's still computers running into our DNA. So we shut down all these computers, all these supercomputers, but the military has found these underground cities.
Wow. Now, did you douse for what kind of portal Adams is?
Adams is...
Mount Adams at ECETI? Like, is it confirmed that it's Syrian Pleiadian?
Okay, hold on. Okay.
While he's doing that, hey, have either of you heard any talk about the feline race? I was listening to James, and he was saying how they were talking about the reptilians and how the feline race is saying, oh, don't worry about the reptilians. We just flip them over and rub their bellies, and then they're just fine. I don't know if either of you heard anything about the feline race up there?
Absolutely. So I have this weird thing that keeps popping up on my computer. The feline race are 6-dimensional Syrian beings, and they're the cat people. They're 14 feet high, and they're very playful, but they can also be, you know, very serious. I did a table tipping session with James Gilliland, so he uses the table kind of like a pendulum. And he was able to connect clear enough stuff to connect me with a 6-dimensional Syrian being that comes in and helps me with my healings. And the name is Haka. And I'm telling you, I did a healing on someone on 8-8 Lionsgate, and full force. I mean, you can literally feel them coming in on your skin. So I've had a few experiences with the feline races through James's workshops, even at Contact in the Desert. That was my first experience 2 years ago at Contact in the Desert, when he brought in the feline beings, and all these people had these visual experiences except me. I have a lot of neck injuries, and these beings were literally manipulating my neck in ways that I couldn't do myself. And it was like physical therapy, but it was not me. So he calls in those lion beings or the feline beings quite often, and they're very, very present, especially when James is around. There's a huge connection.
What I doubt is that Adams is Pleiadian.
Okay, that's good to know, because it corresponds with what we were told when Clyde Lewis was up there with that spirit box, that black box thing.
Spirit box. I want to see that.
It's not a spirit box. He called it something else, but it's the only thing, it's the closest thing that I can identify it as.
Maybe some kind of Tesla technology in there, eh?
Right?
So now, Holly, when you guys are up there, did you do any kind of experiments at all with dowsing or ley lines or anything at all?
You know, I only meditated, but Jason did more dowsing, ley line work, I believe. I heard some pretty good stories from Jason.
What'd you do, Jason?
Well, actually, every single day I was there, I took, or I went with Mark, Holly's husband, and we would walk very slowly to the medicine wheel. And our intention was that every step that we took, we just kind of cleared our mind to see where the energy would take us. And what we found very interesting is there's a long path that we have to walk to get to this first medicine wheel, which I think is the medicine wheel of the star nations. In each quadrant, there is a different race that you're supposed to connect with and sit with in these portals. And as we would walk along this path, it was almost like we would hit a portal or a vortex along the path, and we'd have to stop and allow for that energy to process through us. And once that energy was processed, then we would continue down the path. And we would walk into these portals or into the medicine wheel in the different quadrants, and we just allowed whichever part of the medicine wheel to pull us. And when I say pull, it was literally a physical pull. We would feel the energy pull us in a direction, and we would go sit in that quadrant. And I remember sitting, it was actually the Pleiadian circle. I mean, not the Pleiadian quadrant of the medicine wheel. And I felt the energy go through. I had a very good meditation connection with the Pleiadian energy. And I opened my eyes and I saw Mark, and I think he was in the Orion quadrant, and he was still meditating. And I stood up to walk out of the medicine wheel, and something grabbed my shoulder and pulled me back and sat me back down. And I said, okay, I guess I'm not finished here. I have to wait. But it's not the first time something that I couldn't see it's a physical feeling of a touch and a grab, and they pulled me back to sit. So I guess my monkey mind was done with the experience when my energy body wasn't.
Now, explain the medicine wheel.
Sure. The medicine wheel is a circle out in their property that James has dowsed to say that is the main vortex of the property. And in this vortex, the different lines of energy that are running through it come from different star nations. So from one gate that you can enter the medicine wheel, or it's Syrian energy. One gate it's Pleiadian. One gate it's Orion. What is the other gate? I know I'm forgetting one.
Arcturian.
Arcturian, that's it. So as you walk into this medicine wheel, what it's doing is it's taking those 4 quadrants of energy and they're vortexing them together as one vortex. So you can go and stand in the center and be connected to all these different star frequencies, or you can choose which energy is calling you. And every day that me and Mark went to this medicine wheel, I would pull my pendulum out. We would douse to say which energy is most needed right now. And we would get different answers each day. So we'd go sit where we're being told. And then once the activation or the meditation would be complete, I would stand up and ask again, is there another place on the medicine wheel I need to go? And most of the time was yes. But it was usually just about 2 at a time every time we went there. And each one was different. So for me, it was just more of getting a chance to connect through those portals to those different star nation energies to work on releasing or healing or activating something that's within me that I'm not seeing at the moment.
Is there any stories of people going up to this medicine wheel and actually getting healed from any kind of illnesses?
There was one very interesting story when we were there. I don't think we could mention their name. Holly, no. But basically, this person was sitting in the medicine wheel and he left his body.
Mm-hmm.
which was very strange for them. It hasn't really happened to them in that type of setting. And when they came back to their body, they didn't know anybody around them. Even their closest friends that were in there, it took them about a couple minutes to recuperate to the point where they would remember where they are, who they're sitting with. So it was a very profound experience just by sitting in these medicine wheels.
So this the medicine wheel is something that Jason, the owner of the ranch, dowsed out. He found this vortex, and he is it all stoned out?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So it's something that you can go and you can easily find.
Oh yes, very easy to find. And people that come from all over the world, they bring their special crystals. So there's crystals scattered everywhere around this medicine wheel. Paul, you wanted to add something?
Well, the person that left their body so hard that did they not only recognize their close friends, but not even their spouse when they came back too. So it was quite a jolt. That's all I wanted to add.
So to me, they went on a big astral travel. They probably spent about a good 10 years where they were. Okay, seriously, they probably spent a good 10 years. They came back and they're like, wait a minute, we're not in Kansas anymore. Okay, yeah, it's all making sense. That happened to me once. I was driving my truck to my office. All of a sudden, I'm like, I got to pull over. Where am I? I don't know where I am. And all of a sudden, I was like, okay, yeah, this is the highway. I got to turn there. Okay. I was blown away. It was like, okay, somebody took me for a ride, and I'm not too happy about it.
Well, it's scary. That happened to me on the freeway once when my kid was in the car and I was rushing home. I had a client, and all of a sudden, it's just like I was way ahead on the freeway than where I should have been. And I checked the clock, and it's like, well, no, I just checked the clock. I was really time conscious because I was running late. And then I just jumped ahead, like ahead of traffic and everything. So I don't know what happened in between time, but the first thing I did was like, is my kid all in one piece still? It's a really odd experience.
Well, the concept is that you're supposed to come back at the exact same time that you left, so there's no lag. But sometimes you miss a little bit, and you have some time lag. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if mine was exactly an astral travel at that one point, but it was something really interesting that happened.
Well, sometimes, for example, when you're driving and you need to be taken for some reason, you'll be extracted, but another being will go in your place so you can continue driving and not kill anybody.
You get switched out. I know
right.
when I have little meditations in my office, some people call it meditation, some people call it a nap, call it whatever you want. When it's time for me to come back and start working, they slam me in my body. It's like, okay, I'm awake. Thanks for waking me up. It can be kind of abrupt sometimes when that happens. And if you're driving, that's not such a good place to be.
No. No, so I don't recommend it. I've had a very similar thing. I still don't have a real understanding of it, but basically, I was driving from Arkansas to Toronto, and I had a car full of crystals, and we were driving through some rough neighborhoods, and we were getting tired, so we wanted to stop and rest. So we asked the crystals in the car, can you help us find a place to rest that will be safe? And basically, I lost about a half an hour or 45 minutes of time. And I looked at my GPS and I was way off course. I was even on the wrong highway. And I freaked out and I turned off at the first exit. And right when I turned off, there was a beautiful hotel there.
So they took you to a good place anyway.
It took me to a good place, but I was not conscious for like 30, 40 minutes.
Wow. Denise, we're going to wrap things up real soon. Is there anything you want to ask or add to this?
Yeah, it just sounds like there's been a lot more activity going on over there or up there. And I'm just wondering, do you think it has a lot to do with maybe we're getting close to critical mass here as far as us being ready?
Here, I'll answer that one. Okay, so let's go back to the eclipse. Okay, the big eclipse. Now what that did is it opened the door so we can go into the first grid of the seventh dimension. So we're in the door. There's still 6 more grids to go, but we are, how you say, hitting critical mass. We're ascending into these higher levels of consciousness. It is happening as we're sitting here talking. And within the work that I'm doing and the things that I'm finding and the issues I'm helping people with, I can see it. I can see the progression. I can tell something is changing, something is happening. We're going forward. Okay, a lot of these nasty energies are dropping off, and the messages I get, there's no denying that there is something feeding me these messages. Okay, I don't have to convince anybody of that. This is a real thing happening. So we are progressing, and I think the activity in these types of areas, these vortexes, is going to increase. Okay, maybe to the point where more people pay attention. More people start to say, what is that? Maybe these religious people in these towns just might burst their bubble and say, okay, we need to pay attention to this because something is happening.
Very cool. That's good to hear.
We are going there. It's happening for sure. Jason, any last words?
No, we just have to keep our minds and eyes and ears opened, and don't attach your belief system to what you're experiencing. I think that's the biggest failure that I've seen going through my own experiences is we kind of put our own vision of what we think it is, and we hold it that way. So right now, I'm just going as a pure experiencer. I'm not thinking of anything of what I think it would be or what beings it is. I just allow the experience to take place. And I think that's what we all have to really open ourselves up to experience these things.
Just let it happen. Let it be. Don't question the question. Don't question the answer. Just accept it and go with it. Now, so we've been talking about ECETI all this time. If there's anybody who's interested, is there any information that they can access on the internet about going to this place, about planning it out, about any kind of groups that go? Is there any place that people could go and see how to sign up?
Absolutely. It's ECETI, ECETI Ranch.org. They have conferences going, I know, to the end of this month, but maybe into October. I'm not sure about that. And you need a reservation to go there. Even if you're just going to sky watch or camp, they still need to know. They'll give you a gate code. There's a camping donation. There's donations. They suggested donations go up as you pick a yurt or camping, or they have tents provided. So that's all included on the website. And then it'll list what conferences are going on. So you can definitely attend a conference, or you can just go as an experiencer. And I really recommend it. And, I've been up there 4 times and it's not enough.
Wonderful. I want to thank Zach and Denise. Do you got something, Zach?
Yeah, Chris. As a viewer of this discussion, I would like to know, we had Rainier was reptilian, Hood was Venusian, Adams is Pleiadian. Well, what about Shasta and St. Helens? Can you
Shasta. What is it, Shasta?
Finish out that list for everybody? Okay. And while you're doing that, Jason, why don't you plug your book? What was that book you have behind you?
It's called Forbidden Knowledge, Revelations of a Multidimensional Time Traveler. And right now this book is being translated into Chinese, Japanese, German, and soon French. So it's really out there hitting the mass consciousness. and waken people up.
What was your inspiration on that book?
I had basically my whole life has been experiences. And it got to a point where my brain was too overwhelmed with experiences, where I had to do a mental detox and get my whole story of what I experienced out into book form so I can get it out of my mind. And it helped a lot. And ever since then, it's changed my life. It's helped awaken a lot of people and spread some very positive messages. And the book is basically about my whole experiences of being awakened as a multidimensional being, getting to travel through portals, going to different time spaces, meeting different beings and getting messages, and basically being taught along the way since I've been a child. So it's quite a journey. And you could also check out my website, which is thecrystalsun.com.
The Crystal Sun or just Crystal Sun?
The Crystal Sun, and Sun is S-U-N. And I have a bunch of different books on there, including Egyptian Postures of Power, which is a system of healing that was given to me in my outer body journeys. And obviously there's crystals on the site too.
Now, Mount St. Helens is reptilian. Shasta is Sumerian.
Shasta's what?
Sumerian.
Sumerian. Wow.
Now there could be, more involved with it, but for a quick here you go answer, there it is. I mean, it could be shared. I mean, there's lots. We could spend an hour dowsing and ask questions. Ask the right question, get the right answer. So, quick question, quick answer. That's basically what we're finding. So, but two mountains are reptilian.
Interesting.
Zach and Denise, plug your show.
Go ahead, Zach.
D and Z, Denise Guru and Zakalu. Yeah, we talk and ponder and wonder and discuss, and now we've done a few with Chris here. We'll have Chris back on the 26th? 25th.
Yeah.
Nice. I don't know that yet. I guess I'll find out soon. Thanks for telling me.
We're going to put Chris on the spot. He gets to heal people.
We're gonna do a live healing show. I love doing those. They're wonderful. They're wonderful. Zakalu and Denise Guru, thanks for allowing a quantum view to piggyback on your platform. Much appreciated. Much love to the both of you. You guys are doing fantastic work. As you said, I've been on your show a few times, and I love what you're doing. The two of you have a really good dance vibe. I can see you guys just getting it on and just having a beautiful time doing it. So we really appreciate it. Our thoughts and blessings go out to everyone in Florida, Texas, BC, anywhere there's flooding going on and bad weather. You are in our thoughts and our hearts. We will be back in 2 weeks on Pyramid One Network. This is Chris Kaler. We are out of here.